Did you know that just 17% of homeless individuals in Houston are homeless just because of drug abuse? That tells us that a good majority of the people are on the streets aren't there because of an addiction. They're there because of challenges that they face. Two main challenges I've noticed are A, housing costs, or B, just problems with the system itself. In my opinion, homelessness is one of the biggest challenges that Houston faces, and it's not simple as many people think. So in this video, I'll talk about what's causing homelessness in Houston and what progress the city has made, and then what we as a class can do to help. And I even interviewed a public policy graduate to get an expert's perspective on the problem itself. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was that Houston has made significant progress in reducing homelessness. According to the Coalition for the Homeless of Houston and Harris County, homelessness has dropped by over 60%, since 2011. This huge success comes from Houston's Housing First model. It's a strategy that focuses on getting people into homes before talking about other things or challenges they might face, like, for example, health or just employment overall. And in my opinion, it's one of the best forms of examples in the country that can show us how local leadership and the community itself can actually make a difference. It just shows how we can come together as one community and unite as one and solve a problem altogether just on our own. The second thing I wanted to address is, even though Houston's overall numbers have dropped, there's been a recent rise in people living in the streets again. According to the 2025 point-in-time count by the Coalition for the Homeless, reported by Smart Cities Dive, unsheltered homelessness increased by 16%. This shows us that the housing system, the first housing system that we talked about earlier, that we said that was so great, it might be under pressure again. And that if we don't continue as a community coming together and supporting affordable housing programs so they can get people into homes, the progress we've made over the years, since like the 60% since 2011, all that can just go to absolutely nothing. It could all been to waste. To understand why people are still becoming homeless in Houston, I decided to interview Hajar. She is a public policy graduate and who will tell us the main causes of what still makes people homeless and stay on the streets.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
So we had a couple questions for you. My first question I wanted to ask you is, from your experience, what do you think is the main cause of homelessness in Houston?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. We noticed that in Houston, there's an ongoing crisis of homelessness, especially with the spread of homelessness happening in Houston. We don't only see it prominent in areas like Third Ward or downtown. It's actually spreading into other suburbs as well, which of course causes us to wonder and ask, well, what could be the main cause of homelessness in Houston? Like, what is the root factor for this? And there are countless causes that could cause that. For example, like gang violence, lack of schooling, food scarcity. However, most importantly, that would be due to lack of affordable housing, and especially the rising rent all across Houston could be the biggest and most impactful factors in our city.
Thank you. So I noted, for my second question, that you said that rent increasing and the housing market, or like the affordability of houses, increases. So how do you think those two affect people's chances of like keeping a home?
So what we see is that whenever people have that privilege, or they have that leverage of being in a home or renting a home, right, they find it very difficult to sustain a home. Because once I have the $1,200 for this month, I find it very difficult to make the $1,400 maybe the next month or whenever the new contract comes in. And that causes so many people to instead become homeless. Is that because I have to then look for another job that can sustain this house. However, I couldn't find a job, so I couldn't sustain the house, so I had to leave. With the increasing prices of homes, we see a lot of people leave the homes and rather seek homelessness instead because they find it very, very, very difficult to keep up with the uprising prices of the housing market today.
So, in your expert opinion, right? Do you think Houston's housing first model approach, do you think it's effective long-term wise?
That's actually a great question because I think a lot of us think that the Houston housing first approach is very effective. However, I would question if it's effective on long term because I think it's very great that whenever we see homeless people on the street, we see them off the street. However, the question becomes, well, how long are they off the street for? Because we think that they're off the street. However, they're at a risk of returning back to the street. We see the stats that they're on the street, they're off now, they're in homes, but they come back because the housing first model, it does not encompass everything else. It doesn't take care of their mental health, it doesn't ensure their stability, it doesn't ensure their mental stability, it doesn't take care of, it doesn't equip them with a job, it doesn't equip them with the tools of how to have a house, and things of that such. It doesn't take care of all the other factors that help somebody sustain a home. So whenever we just focus on getting them a home and getting them off the street, we completely dismiss all the other factors that could simply take somebody out of a home. And whenever we do that, we see them back on the street again. So it's like we're in a cycle of returning people back because we've completely dismissed all other factors.
So basically what you're trying to say is that the whole housing first model it's a good initiative because it gets people off the streets, but it doesn't take care of them long term because they can't consistently keep the home, so they eventually get back on the streets.
Yeah,
and then that's what you think led to the rise again in 2025.
Yeah, definitely. So I think they just get them off the streets, and that's what they do is that, hey, we have them off the streets now. We don't have homelessness in this suburb, rather, but they return back because now they couldn't, because they're all at a risk of eviction because they couldn't afford rents, as the question that you're asking prior, because the rising rent prices and because of lack of affordable housing and because of the increases in the housing market. All of these reasons are all contributing to people getting off the streets. Whenever you don't equip them with the skills to be in a home and to sustain a home, then they are most likely going to return back to the streets.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise on this topic. I just wanted to thank you for your time again. Your input and all of this helped me really find out the main causes and the origins of homelessness and why it has risen in this year specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your time, Hajar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure being here.
Before doing this project, I didn't really realize how deep this issue really went. I used to always think that homelessness was just about, personal decisions and how, your choice can eventually lead you to be on the streets. But now I understand it's mostly about systematic issues like rent prices and housing policy. Living in Houston, I've seen people on the streets near my neighborhood, in downtown, all around it. And now I understand the struggles that they go through and face. This project made me see how important local policies, community support, and affordable houses really are. It also made me want to get involved in solutions and helping solutions happen. It just motivated me to keep going and to try to help out as much as possible because now I know what they're going through and what originally made them in the position that they are right now.